Hey, this is the man in the Soviet Sweatshirt. This is going to be one of my first rambles, because even though I don't have a capture card, the other guys at BellinghamBros Productions do, so, aesthetically speaking, I will eventually get footage for whatever I'm rambling about. So you may see this as just a still image on a screen, or it may have full video behind it. Either way, I'll be rambling, so if you expect coherency of any sort whatsoever, leave now. Silence, cat! Anyway, for my first ramble, I'm going to start with doing just rambles on some games that came out this year, 2013. The one I'm going to be doing today is Dead Space 3. Although, hypothetically, if this one gets some traction, I'll do one on Tomb Raider, or Bioshock Infinite, or maybe even Injustice. So yeah, it should be good. So, Dead Space. Dead Space is really a child of portmanteauing 8 different franchises together into one blob. You have isolation from Metroid. You have the item scarcity of Resident Evil. You have the misdirection of Metroid, debatably. And put it all in space. Use the creepy human distortion from Aliens and some of the weird things on a spaceship that nobody's heard of for years from Event Horizon, and you have Dead Space. Its biggest hook, at least for the original, was limb dismemberment. Because you chop off a necromorph's head, and the necromorph comes at you and kills you. It was also pretty difficult, and it was HUDless. The health was the neon tube in your back. Your objectives and missions didn't pause the game when you looked at them on your handy-dandy wrist computer, and overall it was a good game. Frustrating elements with the shooting of the asteroids, I had a lot of problems with that. And some of the villains were a little bit goofy. Like, did the heretic really have to sound Muslim? Really? Because I really don't think he had to be Muslim. Anyways, but Dead Space 2, which was the sequel to this, is actually my favorite of the 3, because they're all basically the same, except I like Dead Space 2's locales a little bit more, because you had a cityscape. In Dead Space 1, you had a ship. There were some space plants for your space oxygen, and there was a space shuttle, but you're in a big ship. In Dead Space 3, you're on an ice ball. Initially, you're in Detroit, obviously. It's this scumbag city full of crazy people. Detroit. So, then you're on a ship, and then you're on an ice planet. Well, in Dead Space 2, you had a nursery, you had a large city center, you had subway tunnels. You had things that looked aesthetically different chapter to chapter. Well, in Dead Space 1, you had big ship forest, big ship. And in Dead Space 3, you have big ship, ice ball. So, anyway. Oh, let's look at Dead Space 3 a little bit. Dead Space 3, as far as the story goes, if you play Dead Space 2, you know that Isaac tattooed the rest of the series onto his eye. If you recall, he tried to tattoo the location of markers to the back of his forehead, and he kind of rolled around during surgery and ended up stabbing himself in the eye with this information. He now has the ability to either create or destroy markers, which is an analogy for the human spirit, if you think about it. And he is told by EarthGov, which sounds like something that you'd say if you got punched in the gut, EarthGov, that there is a marker homeworld, where all the other markers that all the other batshit banana sandwich crazy people built, based on one image. Now, as far as markers go, they're the logo on the back of EA's thing when you start up the game. They're what all the hubbub is about. There's a whole religion about them. And it's essentially limitless energy was the initial potential of markers. The black marker was truly alien. It landed under the Gulf of Mexico, killed the dinosaurs. That's right, fuck that thing, killed the dinosaurs. And human beings, because human beings are fucking stupid, decided that the most logical thing to do with this horrible device that fell from the sky that killed a lot of different things is try to make limitless energy out of it. Yeah, human beings are fucking stupid. So anyway, the problem was, you had a twisted life after death scenario called necromorphs, which fucked up your body and messed up your arms and shredded up your shoulder blades. Now, the one thing that I think about when you look at the necromorph infection and what it does, the necromorphs, they use the infection to habitate a new environment. So you'll notice in a lot of areas in all the games, the insulation of the buildings, or just the goo on the walls, is made out of human flesh. It is a sort of weird flesh asbestos, if you will. A type of, extreme makeover home edition for aliens. And the one thing it makes me think of is Resistance Fall of Man, which is a 2006 launch title for the PlayStation 3. And the chimera of Resistance work much in the same way as the necromorphs of Dead Space. They use human genetic material to create different creatures. So the Leviathan from Resistance 2 had over 5,000 human corpses in it, apparently. And it stands to reason that really all the goo that's on the walls is quite simply human flesh used to habitate their new environment. So they use it more like genetic goo than they use actual humans for it. It's more like the actual human genes, I suppose. Anyway, but in Dead Space 3, you need to go to the marker homeworld. But initially, you're on a spaceship. Can't really escape the spaceship. And then you land on Hoth, or whatever the ice ball planet is, where apparently they successfully handled a necromorph infestation. Successfully handled doesn't necessarily mean they killed themselves, because necromorphs, that's not really a problem for them. But somehow, since we don't have ice necromorphs anywhere else in the game, well, maybe I've seen one frozen in, like, cryo, but we don't have truly ice necromorphs. That means that the infestation on Terra Volos, or whatever the hell Hindu name they thought up when they were high, definitely did not escape to the rest of the game. Anyway, so Isaac and his motley crew of African-American scientists, douchebags, and more douchebags and poorly developed characters all fly out to the ice ball to see if they can figure out what's going on, shortly crash into the ice ball, and then go on their merry way trying to contain a marker infestation. Is it different than the other Dead Spaces? Absolutely not. You're moving this, you're pulling this, you're looking at that, you're moving this, you're listening to this, yeah, It's all the same. Which also applies to the optional missions. This is something new to Dead Space 3, where occasionally it'll be like, hey, Isaac, there's like this ship. It's over there. It might have something in it, maybe. I don't know. I get Pedro is totally your companion on that. No, but it's just, literally, it's just this kind of, hey, you can go over there if you want. Or, whatever. It's the most apathetic mission objective system I've ever heard of. But they're all story-driven, and since Dead Space, in a nutshell, is move this, pick up this, go there, move this, look at that, all the optional missions have to be is have some text justifying why the hell you're there, and then look at this, move that, over there, look at this, and most of the time there's actually good loot. Now that's another important thing for Dead Space 3, and I'm going to go into the story a little bit later again, because that's one of the end sequences, one of the things I really enjoy about the game. But anyway, one of the big things that it does is a redesign of the way it does weapons. Now, in previous Dead Space games, you got solid weapons. In Dead Space 2, you found blueprints. I don't recall. I think you did the same thing in Dead Space 1. I'm doing this all in one take, so I'm not Googling anything. But you had individual weapons with individual ammo types. And there was upgrades you could get via nodes, which kind of looked like big car hubcaps that were gold, that somehow you slammed into the side of your weapon, and it magically fired better. And this was the same way you upgraded your rig. This is almost everything in the game. You used a workbench for it. Now, with the weapon modification systems, you can fuck around with whatever the hell you want to your heart's content. On easy. I could not even imagine attempting to do what I did, which is try to hope to God that the weapon that I have actually kills necromorphs, which the worst thing in the world, especially with the new autosave system, is you're standing in an elevator, there are 5 necromorphs, the ones that have kneecaps of adamantium and arms of titanium that you can't slice, even if you shoot them 500 fucking times. I'm calm. Anyway, the worst thing in the world is to have 2 weapons that you created really quick, that you thought would be cool, that all of a sudden you realize can't kill the enemies that are right in front of you. This can be many reasons. Either the damage on what you had is bad, or it's a single-shot rifle, or it's a burst shot gun. For whatever reason, you didn't quite get why you put those things there besides the generic, well, I think it looked cool, and now you're stuck. You're gonna die over and over and over again if you did not save previously. And sometimes when you try to save, it doesn't even work at all. So therefore, yeah. And also the universal ammo system is another problem with this too, because if you have a gun that eats through ammo like nobody's business, and it shares the exact same ammo type as a gun that shoots one giant volley and that's it, if you run out of all your ammunition for the bullet muncher, then you're screwed. You're completely screwed with the entire system that you have set up for yourself. I'll tell you what I did. I, around the second disc, figured out a way just to get DMG to 100%. And then as long as you have all the other little variables above 50%, you're fine. So I had an assault rifle that had a modification on it where whenever you'd hit an enemy, it would stasis them. Now, stasis in Dead Space is this magical blue powder you throw into the air and it magically matrixes whatever is in front of you. In Dead Space 2, it regenerated. In Dead Space 1, you had to use packs to regenerate it, and I think there were packs in Dead Space 2, but I don't remember. And it is Dead Space 3, excuse me. In Dead Space 3, I couldn't tell you if it regenerated. Never regenerated fast enough is what I got out of that one. But anyway, so that's, you throw it at necromorphs and you run away like a pussy while you're peeing yourself and reloading your gun. And you use the stasis bullets to do the same thing, except you're still firing at the necromorph, so it's extremely helpful. Now, every single weapon you can now have an underbarrel thing on it, and I had an underbarrel incendiary grenade launcher, which I used for two different reasons. One is the DMG would, like, blow enemies to shit, and also I had a lot of health packs, so what I would do is I'd run into an area with a lot of enemies and shoot it at the ground, and I'd be flipped backwards away from the enemies. So I used to do that for crowd control, where I'd shoot it straight down and just fly backwards. And then the other weapon I had was like this God Hammer, where you shoot it once and the enemy explodes, but you have to be really fucking close to do it. And then under that was a flamethrower. Anyway, the weapon customization thing, you have to screw around in order for it to work. And that is a very big problem if you have experimented with two guns that don't work. And you auto-saved. Saved, whatever, fuck it. However, once it works, it's actually pretty cool. You know. And then I'd like to discuss my biggest problem with the game. It's only one section. One particular section. That is the most asinine. The most bullshitting. The most fucking ridiculous portion of any game I have played in quite some time. Now, in Dead Space 3, you're on an ice ball. Ice ball planets have mountains, and you need futuristic space climbing gear. Nah, bullshit. You need a hook on your suit and a flying grappling hook, and you clamp that on there and you can rock climb. Presto. But, you know, it makes sense, and, you know, initially it seems cool. You're walking up, you're one hand in a gun like a badass, killing some necromorphs. Then you get to this one section where things are falling down on you, and you have to stasis them. Okay, I'll stasis and jump over. That's fine. Except if you so much as breathe next to the things that you just stasised, you will explode and die instantly and respawn at the bottom again. To make matters worse, not only are there things falling around you, there's something swinging back and forth. So if you fucking had the nerve to place that thing in stasis in between the cavern, you are going to die. There is no way that you can actually avoid dying if you had frozen it in almost anything but a certain spot. So it's almost like the game developers went, I'm going to see if I can make this part so frustrating that nobody will play the rest of the game. And it almost made me do it, until I somehow managed to blindly frustrate my way up the damn mountainside, which, I'm going to enter that into a dictionary as frustrate, a verb for climbing. But that almost made that game not worth it for me. That was some fucking bullshit. And I just don't like it. But anyway, the rest of the game is fine. The necromorphs, it eventually turns out that necromorphs on this planet, it actually isn't the marker homeworld, it's just the place where alien necromorphs, which is kind of an oxymoron if you think about it, alien necromorphs landed here, and that's how the infection got to humans, and that's how they sent out the main beacon. There was a large creature that landed here that sent out the initial marker beacon, which caused crazy people, unitologists, to start building markers everywhere. And that's, the long and short of that one. And eventually, the story, as I said, the story actually really picks up toward the end, where you start getting into the really kooky alien city with some of the coolest escalators ever. You, like, jump into this floaty sphere of cool, and then you get shot forward like you got shot out of a cannon. I don't know where I can find a mall that has that, but I'm gonna fucking go there all the time and won't buy shit, but I will totally ride those escalators, because that is cool. However, there's still some problems with, like, running into objects and things. The falling sequences that were in Dead Space 2 are in Dead Space 3, but they're not as extensive. They're not as long, and I never died in any of the falling sequences in Dead Space 3, and I died a couple of times in the ones in Dead Space 2. So, anyway, but by the end, Dead Space 3, when the area starts warping around because you didn't put your magical keycard into the right slot, so now the world's going to end and a giant monster is trying to eat you, and you have to do a quite literal version of cross your heart, hope to die, stick a needle in your eye, except that needle is a giant statue. And then, congratulations, you win. the ice ball is destroyed. Other markers are doing stuff. Isaac, yeah, I don't know. He fell into a vortex of internal plot holes, and he might be dead. He might be alive. Who the fuck cares? The game is over. Now, my overall interpretation is 8.5. I think that it has some definite good parts. The bullshit with the ammo is annoying, but if you get guns that legitimately work, it's great. It's a lot of fun to have these crazy guns that actually do cool things. And the side missions are more Dead Space 3, and I like how that works. And, to a certain extent, it really is a little bit better than Dead Space 1. Because there is no asteroid shooty sequence, except for the fucking rock climbing. And that is literally the only thing that causes it to be 8.5. I would have given it a 9 if it actually didn't have that fucking sequence. Even with all the frustration, I mean, I could still, kind of weasel my way around it. But, fuck that sequence. As far as Dead Space 3 goes, yeah, you play it. If you played the first 2 games, play those. I may or may not end up doing a ramble on Dead Spaces 1 and 2, but who knows? We'll see. Remember, for the colonies.